Nate was just an engineer. Didn't care much for alien politics or traditions. His job was to keep the systems on Kalora Station running. Power cables, broken panels, old techie fixed whatever needed fixing. Kalora Station floated between 3 different galactic zones and welcomed over 50 species. It was noisy, crowded, and smelled weird most of the time. But Nate liked it. One day, while fixing a flickering light in Storage Sector 7, he found a sealed door. The sensor didn't respond to his ID. Curious, Nate manually opened it with a bypass tool. Inside, the room was dark and empty, except for strange carvings glowing faintly on the wall. They looked like symbols or letters. He reached out and touched one. A sudden light burst from the wall. The symbol he touched turned bright gold and sent a warm pulse through his body. Nate jumped back. His fingers tingled. "Okay, ... That was new," he muttered. He reported the strange room to the station lead and moved on to the next task. But later that day, something happened. A tall alien woman approached him near the food stalls. Her skin shimmered softly like pearl, and her eyes were deep silver. She wore flowing robes and moved like she floated. Nate recognized her species Alari, rare. Most of them didn't leave their homeworld. "Are you the one who touched the old chamber?" "Yeah? Maybe. I just fixed a power panel." "Why?" She held out her wrist. There was a glowing mark same as the one he touched, and it pulsed the same golden color. "You have activated my mating mark," she said softly. Nate blinked. "I did what?" "Your touch completed the mark signal. By Zellery law, we are now bonded. We have 30 rotations to accept the bond fully, or we both suffer health decline." Nate laughed nervously. Wait, hold on. I just touched a wall. I didn't sign up for bonding or ... whatever this is." She nodded slowly. "I understand, but the bond is real. It cannot be broken easily." Her name was Arila. She spoke gently, but firmly. She explained how the ancient Zelari used these marks to create deep life connections between mates. Normally, both sides chose it willingly. But very rarely, the mark would activate by accident, through fate or energy interference. Nate didn't believe in fate. But he did start feeling strange. After their meeting, dizzy spells, headaches, and a weird sensation whenever he moved far away from her. The station doctors ran tests. Human and Zellery biology weren't even close, but somehow, their vital signs started sinking. The closer they stood, the more stable. Their readings were, "I don't want to be stuck to someone just because of a glowing tattoo," Nate said. Frustrated Arila replied calmly, "I do not want to force a bond. But if we do not accept it fully, our bodies will begin to break down." They were given a shared room in the station's medical housing wing. Not because they liked it, but because their health worsened when apart. The station didn't know what to do. Even the alien specialists were confused. Nate tried to keep his distance emotionally. He played music, worked on his tablet, and avoided eye contact. But Arilla was always there quiet, watching, graceful. She meditated every morning and asked for peace in her own language. Nate didn't understand her words, but the sound was calming. One night, Nate was pacing. He couldn't sleep. "This isn't fair. I didn't mean to get bonded to anyone." Spoke from her mat in the corner. "I did not expect this either, but we are here, and time is passing." He sat down near her. "So what happens if we ... don't accept the bond?" "Pain, sickness, possible death in some cases. But the bond drains energy when incomplete, only gives strength once whole." Nate rubbed his face. "Great, just great. So we either become some weird couple or suffer until we die." Arilla turned to him. "I do not ask for love, only understanding. The bond is more than feeling it is trust." Nate looked at her. Really looked. Her silver eyes were tired. She didn't ask for this either. She wasn't controlling him. She was just caught in the same mess. "Okay," he said. "What do we have to do to keep this thing from killing us?" She gave a small smile. "Spend time. Stay close. Learn, the bond will show its way." "Fine," Nate sighed. but I'm not sharing my pillow. They started spending more time together not because they wanted to, but because their bodies forced it. Nate showed her how to use a human tablet. She taught him how to calm his nerves with breathing. She hated sweet food. He loved it. She walked like a dancer. He stumbled into things. They were different in every way. But slowly, something changed. They began to understand each other. Not perfectly, not deeply, but enough to smile once in a while. Nate still tried to find a solution. He looked through data, asked doctors, even messaged old professors from Earth. No answer, no escape. And then something unexpected happened. A strange Zellery ship arrived, and with it, danger neither of them saw coming. The Zellar ship was sleek and quiet, almost like it floated on light. It docked at Kalura Station without warning. The moment it arrived, Arilla froze. She stood by the window in their shared room, staring at the ship's long silver shape. Fingers curled slightly. Nate looked up from the small circuit board he was fixing. "What's wrong?" "It's that symbol," she said, pointing to the crest on the side of the ship. "It belongs to my house. That ship came from my people." Nate frowned. "Are they here for you?" Arilla didn't answer. Instead, she sat down quietly and closed her eyes. Nate had learned not to interrupt when she did, that her way of thinking through things, but his gut told him something was off. Hours. Later, the station's security team came to their room. The Zelari warrior entered behind them, tall, with golden armor and sharp eyes. He moved with the confidence of someone used to command. "You are the human," the warrior said, eyes locking onto Nate. "And you," he turned to Arilla, "you have bonded with him," Arilla stood. "Not by choice, but yes. The mark has been activated. Then it must be broken." Nate blinked. "Excuse me?" The warrior stepped forward. "I am Venker. I was chosen as Arilla's intended bondmate long ago. This accident has no meaning. She belongs to our kind. The bond must be undone before the cycle completes." Arilla raised her hand. "That is not your decision, Venker. You know the rules," he said sharply. "Our people do not bond with outsiders. The mark chose, and the bond has already started. Our lives are linked." Venkar's eyes narrowed. "Then he must step aside willingly, or face challenge." "Challenge?" Nate asked, already knowing he wouldn't like the answer. "Duel," Arilla said quietly. "A traditional one. If a bond is contested, the outsider can be challenged. If he loses, the bond is cancelled." Nate looked between them. "This is insane. I didn't ask for any of this." Venker stepped closer, then surrender. "Let her return to her world and honor. You are not worthy." Nate stood, trying not to show fear. "I may not be worthy, but I'm not letting anyone push me around." Venker smiled like someone who'd already won. "The duel will happen tomorrow in the station's arena." After Venker left, Nate turned to Arilla. "Is he serious? I'm just an engineer." Arilla nodded. "He is very serious and very skilled. Don't even know how to fight." She looked at him for a long moment. "You do not have to win. Just survive. The duel is about showing your intent, not killing." "Well, that's a relief," Nate muttered, then sat down heavily. "So now I have to go up against a golden space warrior just to prove—" "What? That I'm not a mistake?" "No," Arilla said softly. "To prove that you are not afraid to choose." They spent the night in silence. Arilla prepared herbal tea. From her planet, something that helped slow the heart. Nate practiced holding a simple baton given by the station. It felt light and useless in his hands. The next morning, the arena was full. Not just Zelari. All kinds of species had gathered. Duels were rare, especially one between a human and a Zelari noble. Nate stood in the middle of the circle, heart pounding. Vent entered wearing polished armor, his eyes cold and proud. He held a staff with glowing ends, used to disable rather than kill. Arilla stood outside the ring. Her hands were tight at her sides, but her face showed nothing. "Begin." A voice shouted. Nate barely raised his baton in time to block the first strike. It sent a shock up his arm. Venker was fast. Too fast. Nate backed away, trying to keep his footing. "You are weak," Venker said, swinging again. Nate dodged barely. He was sweating already. Every time he tried to strike, Venker was quicker, stronger, but Nate didn't give up. Kept moving, kept blocking. He remembered what Arilla said, he just had to survive. After 10 minutes, the crowd started murmuring. Nate was still standing. Bruised, limping, but standing. He even managed to land a weak hit on Venker's side. Venker growled and swung hard, knocking Nate to the ground. The baton fell from Nate's hand. "Stay down," Venker ordered. Nate looked up, breathing hard. His legs shook. He could feel the pulse of the mating mark on his wrist growing warmer. "No," he said through his teeth. "I won't." He stood again. The crowd went silent. Venker lowered his weapon. "Enough," he said. "You have no skill. Yes. But you have resolve. The bond may remain." He left the ring without another word. Arilla rushed to Nate. "Are you hurt?" "Everywhere," he groaned, leaning on her shoulder. Did I win? You stood," she said. "That was the victory." They walked back slowly to their room, passing silent watchers from many species. Nate didn't care what they thought. He only cared that Arilla didn't let go of his arm the whole way. The day after the duel, Nate didn't get out of bed. Every part of his body hurt. His legs felt like stone, his back ached, and his right shoulder refused to move. Arilla sat beside him, pressing a warm cloth to his bruises. She didn't speak much, just watched him with quiet eyes. "So," Nate mumbled, "that's what happens when you fight a space warrior. You stood your ground," she said. "You did more than anyone expected." He looked at her. "And what about you?" "What happens now that Venker backed off?" She took a slow breath. "Our bond is still incomplete. It's stable for now, but not whole. We must decide if we will complete it, or we may begin to weaken again." Nate sat up, groaning. "So what does complete the bond mean exactly? Is it like some big ceremony?" "It's a choice," Arilla said, "made by both. It begins with trust, and we mark each other willingly." Mark each other. Nate blinked, like with a knife. She shook her head, with touch. "Both place our hands on the symbol again. But this time, with intent, with understanding." Nate leaned back and stared at the ceiling. The first time he touched the symbol, it had been a mistake. He had to choose it. That felt much bigger, much harder. "What if I say no?" he asked quietly. "Then the bond fades slowly, and both of us will feel the pain. Right? Not just in body, but in spirit." Nate didn't speak for a while. He thought about everything that had happened. He'd come to this station to escape Earth for a while, to be alone, to work in peace. Now, somehow, he was bonded to an alien woman from a noble family, stuck in something that felt like both a curse and a gift. Arilla stood and walked to the window. "I will not force you," she said, "but I will wait."
Ow.
The next day, Nate got out of bed. He wasn't fully healed, but he could move. He helped a few station workers fix a broken vent system. They greeted him with quiet respect now. Word of the duel had spread. Many of them had seen him stand against a Zellery warrior and survive. Later, Nate sat with Arilla in the common area. She was reading from a small device, her eyes calm. "You didn't choose this," he said. "Double quotes, no," she replied, "but neither did I." "True," he smiled, "yet we're still here." She looked up. "Yes, we are." Nate reached out and took her hand, felt warm, steady. Her eyes widened just slightly, but she didn't pull away. "Let's try it," he said. "Bond, let's finish it." Arilla nodded once. Slowly. "Are you sure?" "I don't know, but I don't want to walk away." They returned to the room where it all began, the storage chamber, with the glowing mark on the wall. Station security had sealed it off, but they allowed Nate and Arilla inside for this moment. The symbols still glowed faintly. Nate stepped forward first. He placed his hand on it. It pulsed under his palm. Arilla moved beside him and placed her hand next to his. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the mark began to glow, brighter soft gold light spreading up there, arms enwrapping around them like a ribbon of light. Nate felt warmth rush through his chest. Not just physical, but emotional. Memories of their time together flashed in his mind, her calm voice, Her quiet strength, her laughter the night she tried spicy noodles. The mark pulsed once, twice, then faded back into the wall. The glow on their wrists remained bright, complete la. Turn to him. It is done. Nate let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. So, what now? Now, she said, we are bonded fully. We will no longer feel the sickness. Our link is permanent. Nate smiled weakly. Hope you don't snore. Rilla blinked, then gave a small laugh. Only during the 6th sleep phase. Good to know. They walked out of the chamber together. For the first time, Nate didn't feel like a stranger beside her. People in the hallway stepped aside and nodded as they passed. Some even smiled. The bond between human and Zalari was rare, but now it was real. Back in their room, Arilla prepared a drink from her homeworld, clear liquid with a soft glow. This is for new beginnings, she said, handing him a cup. Nate took it. What's in it? Peace, memory, and a little heat. He sipped it and coughed. Yep, there's the heat. They both laughed. Later that night, as the station lights dimmed and the stars drifted slowly outside their window, Nate sat beside Arilla and looked at her glowing wrist. His mark matched hers. You know, he said, this may be the weirdest thing that's ever happened to me. To me as well, Arilla said, but ... maybe also the best. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she leaned her head lightly against his shoulder. Maybe, she whispered. Maybe it is. Nate didn't sleep well after the duel. Even though he had survived, his mind was full of questions. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Venkar's sharp staff swinging at him, Arilla's quiet face as she watched from the edge of the ring. She hadn't said much since then, and that worried him more than his bruises. The next morning, the medical bot scanned his body and said his wounds were healing, but slowly. Arilla sat beside the bed, silent as usual. Nate finally broke the silence. Are you mad at me? She shook her head. No, I am. ... Thinking. About what? The fight.
About us, she said.
And the bond? Nate sat up. Oh, you mean we still have to complete it? Yes. What happened with Venkar only proved you were willing. But the bond itself is still half-formed. He leaned back. So all that, and we're still stuck in limbo. We are no longer being hunted, but now we must choose. Nate rubbed his face.
8.
The complete or suffer slowly part. Rilla looked down at her hands. I do not want you to be forced, but you should know. The symptoms will return if we do not finish the bonding soon. Nate sighed. He stood and walked to the window. Out there, ships moved quietly between stars. He thought about everything Earth, his old life, how quiet it had been. He had come here to get away from people. But now, here he was, tied to someone completely different from him, someone who didn't even smile much. But she had stood up for him. She had not let her own people tear the bond apart, and she had stayed by his side through all of it. Okay? He said finally, how do we complete it? Arilla rose slowly. There is a ceremony, a private one. We return to the place where the mark was first activated. Both of us must place our hands on the mark again, but this time willingly. Full intent, and after that, then the bond becomes permanent, and we will be fully linked. Nate turned around. Permanent how? Emotionally? Mentally? In time? We may even sense each other's feelings. Nate raised his eyebrows. You'll be able to feel if I'm angry? Yes, even if I'm angry at you. She nodded. Yes, laughed softly. Great. She stepped closer. You do not have to decide now. But we must choose soon. Nate didn't answer right away. He just looked at her. She didn't pressure him. She didn't beg or try to guilt him. She just waited. Okay, he said finally. Let's do it. They returned to the chamber where it had all begun. The glowing symbol was still there on the wall, faint but alive. Station security had sealed the room, but after the duel, they agreed to open it for this one moment. Nate stood in front of. The mark. Arilla stood beside him. Are you sure? She asked. No, he said honestly. But I want to try. Together, they placed their hands on the symbol. As soon as their fingers touched the wall, a soft golden light spread from the mark. It wrapped around their hands and moved up their arms, warm and calm. Nate felt something shift inside him, not pain, something else, like a deep breath filling his chest. Like a quiet voice saying, "You're not alone now." He looked at Arila. Her eyes were closed. Her face looked softer than usual, more peaceful. The symbol pulsed once, then slowly dimmed. The bond was complete. When they returned to their room, Nate sat on the edge of the bed. "So, ... does this mean I'm part alien now?" "No," she said with a small smile, "but you are part of me." Nate smiled back. "Wow, that's don't big." "Yes," she said, "but it does not have to be scary." Nate nodded slowly. Looked down at his wrist. The mark was still glowing faintly, matching hers. "So what now?" "Now we learn to live with it," she said. "Together." Over the next few days, Nate noticed small changes. He didn't get dizzy anymore when Arila stepped away. In fact, he could feel her nearby, like a warm spot in the room. When she was worried, he felt it before she spoke. When he laughed, she smiled even when she didn't understand the joke. They ate meals together. Sometimes in silence, sometimes with strange conversations. Nate taught her to play a simple card game. She taught him to listen to the sound of silence between heartbeats. One evening, as they sat near the station's observation dome, Nate looked at the stars. "You know," he said, "this wasn't how I thought my life would go." "Nor mine," she said, "but I'm not running away." "I know," she said, "and neither am I." They sat together, quiet, while ships passed by in the dark sky. Their hands rested close, almost touching, but not quite. Nate didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But for the first time since he arrived on the station, he didn't feel like he had to be alone anymore. A week had passed since Nate and Arila completed the bond. Life on Kalora Station slowly returned to normal. Or as normal as things could be when you were so linked to a noble alien woman. Nate still worked his shift as an engineer. Broken vents, replaced old panels, and checked life support lines. But now, wherever he went, people greeted him differently.
Ow.
Some smiled with quiet respect, others just gave a short nod. He had gone from just another human to someone who had survived a duel with a Zelari warrior and completed a sacred bond. Arila also changed. She no longer walked with stiff shoulders or silent eyes. There was calmness in her now, as if a heavy weight had been lifted. She didn't speak more than usual, but when she did, her voice had a softness it didn't have before. One afternoon, Nate sat at their shared table, tinkering with a small drone. Arila placed a warm drink beside him. "Thanks," he said, looking up. "What's the occasion?" "Nothing special," she replied. "Just ... comfort." He smiled. "You know, you're really hard to read sometimes." She sat across from him. "You're very easy to read." "Hey," he laughed. "It is not a bad thing," she said, a hint of humor in her voice. "You wear your feelings like a clear sky. You wear yours like a locked door," he replied. "Then perhaps," she said, "we balance each other." That made him pause. Maybe she was right. That evening they visited the observation dome again. Nate had brought a small blanket and some snacks. Arila had brought a carved crystal that hummed softly when placed near the window. "What is that?" Nate asked. "A memory stone," she said. "It records feelings, not images or sound, just emotions, from important moments like today. If you wish." They sat side by side, watching stars blink in the black sky. Soft silence stretched between them. Nate finally spoke. "Do you ever miss your homeworld?" Rilla nodded, slowly. "Yes. The sky there is violet, and the trees sing when the wind moves through them. But I do not miss the loneliness." He looked at her. "You were lonely?" "Yes," she said. "Even among my own people." He didn't say anything for a moment. Then he reached over and gently placed his hand over hers. "Well," he said softly, "you're not alone anymore." She looked down at their joined hands. The mark on their wrists glowed faintly in perfect sync. Later that night, something unexpected happened. A transmission came in, one marked priority and sealed by the Zellery High Council. Arilla opened it while Nate watched from the couch. A serious-looking Zellery elder appeared on the screen. His voice was deep and formal. Orilla, daughter of House Saren, we acknowledge your completed bond. We understand the unusual nature of this event. However, the council has made a decision. You are to return home. The human is to come with you. Nate blinked. What? The elder continued. We must understand this link more deeply. Never before has a human completed the bond with a full-blooded Zellery. Your return is required. The screen went black. Nate turned to Orilla. So, ... they want us to visit your planet. Not visit, she said quietly. Present ourselves. Prove that our bond is real and stable. What if we don't go? They may assume the bond was forced or fake. That would bring shame. Maybe even danger. Nate rubbed the back of his neck. Do you want to go? Part of me does, she admitted. But I fear what they will say. What will they do to me? They won't harm you. But they will question everything. Your words, your heart, your purpose. Nate looked at her for a long moment. Then we go. She tilted her head. You are sure? I didn't come all this way just to run from your people. We're bonded. We face things together, right? She smiled. It was small, but real. Yes, together. The next day, they prepared to leave Kalura Station. As they walked through the main docking bay, several workers waved goodbye. Even the station director gave Nate a short bow. Take care of her, the director said. Nate nodded. I plan to. They boarded a sleek Zellery ship, one designed for quiet speed and long travel. Seats were soft, the lights low. Everything smelled like fresh trees. Ariela guided the ship from the front controls, her hands moving with grace. Nate sat beside her, watching stars streak by as they left the station far behind. How long until we arrive? He asked. 2 days, she replied, and when we arrive, everything changes. Nate leaned back in his seat. Maybe. Or maybe everything just begins. Ariela glanced at him, a flicker of emotion in her silver eyes. I hope they see what I see. Nate smiled. You mean the clumsy human who fixed a light and touched the wrong wall? No, she said softly. The one who stayed. In that small, quiet ship, speeding through the stars, their bond grew stronger than ever without a single word more. The ship entered Zellery space quietly. Stars glowed dimly outside, but Nate barely noticed them. His eyes were fixed on the glowing blue planet ahead, Ariela's homeworld. Soft clouds wrapped around crystal mountains, and silver rivers cut through. Green lands below. It looked peaceful, but his heart beat fast with worry. Ariela sat beside him in the pilot's seat. Her face was calm, but Nate could feel her tension through their bond. The glow on their wrists had dimmed during the flight, but it still pulsed gently, showing their connection. You don't have to be afraid, he said. She didn't look at him, but nodded. I am not afraid for myself. I am afraid for you. He gave her a small smile. I've faced worse. Remember the time I almost fell into a trash compactor? You dropped your food tray inside and tried to grab it, she said, deadpan. Very noble mission, he replied. She allowed herself a tiny smile, then turned serious again. They will question you, deeply, and they will try to break your will. Good luck to them, Nate muttered. The ship landed on a raised platform made of white stone. Waiting below were tall figures dressed in flowing robes, their eyes glowing. Silver like Ariela's, soldiers stood nearby, unmoving. The air outside shimmered with warmth and quiet energy. Nate stepped out with Ariela. The ground felt soft under his boots. Birds with long tails flew over their heads, singing strange songs. An elder stepped forward. His robe had gold lines, and his face was old but firm. You are the human, he said. And you are Ariela, daughter of House Saren. Ariela bowed. Yes, elder. Come. The council awaits. They walked through long halls made of glass and crystal. Everything shined with gentle light. Nate kept close to Ariela. People whispered as they passed, staring at him with wonder or doubt. Inside the council hall, 10 elders sat in a wide circle. In the center was a platform with 2 stone seats. Ariela and Nate were told to sit. The questioning began. Why did you touch the sacred mark? One elder asked. I didn't know what it was, Nate answered honestly. I was fixing a power grid. It just lit up when I touched it. When you learned what it meant, another elder asked. I panicked. He said, but I stayed. I didn't want to hurt her. You chose to complete the bond. He looked at Arilla, then back at the council. Yes, I chose her. A long silence followed. Then another voice spoke softer this time. Do you understand what it means to be bonded to one of our kind? Not everything, Nate said.
Ow.
But I know this I wouldn't walk away from. Her Arilla glanced at him, a small light in her eyes. The elders leaned back and spoke among themselves in low voices. Finally, the first elder stood again. Arilla, speak now. Is this bond true? Arilla stood. Her voice was strong. This bond was not chosen by tradition, but it is true. He has stood beside me in weakness and in strength. I do not question it. The elder nodded. Then we accepted. A soft hum filled the hall. Light flowed from the ceiling, shining on their marks. The glow on their wrists flared bright and then faded, sealing the council's approval. Later, Arilla brought Nate to her family home. It stood near the edge of a glowing forest, with walls made of smooth blue stone and vines that sang when the wind passed. Inside, Arilla's mother waited. She was tall, proud, and quiet. She looked at Nate with sharp eyes. So, she said slowly, you are the human. Nate nodded. Yes, ma'am. She stepped forward and looked at the mark on his wrist. Then she looked into his eyes. You stayed, she said simply. Yes. She nodded. Then welcome to our house. Nate let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. Days passed on the planet. Nate explored glowing gardens, walked under trees that whispered old songs, and even learned how to ride a soft-footed animal with wings. The people watched him, but slowly they began to smile and greet him. He and Arilla spent quiet evenings under the stars. One night as they sat near a small lake, Arilla turned to him. You are not afraid anymore, she said. Not really. He replied, I think I've found my place. You miss Earth? Sometimes, but not in the way I used to. I was running from things before. Now I think I'm running toward something. She nodded. So am I. Nate reached out and held her hand. You know, for an accident, this turned out kind of perfect. She smiled gently. The mark may have chosen first, but we chose each other. And in that quiet place under a glowing sky, with the wind moving softly through silver trees, two different souls, human and alien, rested side by side. Their bond was no longer a mistake. It was their beginning.